And today we have Brian Mercer. Actually, Brian and I have joined forces to collaborate with animalsandthelight.com. Brian is an author as well. He is also an interviewer at Author Magazine. You still do all that, right?
I do.
I need to ask about that.
Oh, there we go. We're live.
You've written books about astral projection.
Yes. It's called Mastering Astral Projection.
Brian is an author as well. Oh, look at that. We're up and running.
Yes, we are up and running. So yes, my name is Brian Mercer. I am.
You've written books about astral projection.
I do this every time.
Yes. Where he's going to figure out his volume button on his secondary computer that he has next to him.
I'm a tech guy on my day job. Anyway, so if you get a chance, please go to our site. So Jamie, of course, is psychic medium extraordinaire and author of With Love and Light, a true story about an uncommon gift. And I am Brian Mercer. I'm an author of Mastering Astral Projection, 90-Day Guide to an Out-of-Body Experience. Together, we're joining forces to bring you Animals in the Light, a show, a website, a book about what happens to animals and our animal companions after they cross over and their roles in our lives, both before and after they go. If you get a chance, please go to our site, animalsandthelight.com. And if you have a story to share about your animal surviving death, please submit it using the form at the bottom of the page. And if you haven't already, please go to Jamie Butler's Facebook page and like and follow her. That really helps us out and it gets our book moving forward. So
it does.
Yes.
Which is where you are right now viewing this. And of course, we will also have this available up on YouTube a little bit later. Before we started, I was asking Brian if he had noticed a difference in his cat's behaviors with the corona vacation happening.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the people parents are at home 24/7 with their animal children and how they're reacting to that. Have you noticed any changes?
I had a paranormal experience, and I don't think it's related because I do work from home 3 days a week, so I'm home a lot anyway. But so this is really weird. Okay, so this last Friday night, and my littlest cat, Dandelion, she's still a little bit of a kitten. She she was down in the basement. I went down there just before dinner to kind of get a sense of if well, actually there was food down there, so that's why I was down there. And I say it's a basement, but it's a bright space. It's not finished, but it is. There's carpeting down there. There's a home gym. It's kind of a pantry. You do a wash down there. And Dandelion was on the ground, and she was looking across at her eye level at what looked like she might have been looking at another animal, but there was no other animal there. And she looked as if she had just gotten puffy. Like when the cat gets scared and they puff out. And so I'm like, what's going on here? And she looked, then my fiance, Debbie, was at the top of the stairs and I called her down and we just watched her and she's watching this space. And then she puffed up really big. Her tail got big and she turned to the side, like to make herself bigger, like she was spooked by something. And then, and she kept doing this and it's like, it was freaking me out a little bit. So I went over, I just walked, I purposely walked through the space that she was looking. I grabbed her and I brought her upstairs. Okay. The next morning, she comes out of the basement. Now, so I'm in Seattle and we've been in lockdown for a while. This is about 2 weeks in, a little bit more. And she walks up to the basement and Debbie's getting ready in the bathroom and she stands outside the door and she does this terrible yowl, like something is wrong. So I run over to her and I pick her up and I put her on the kitchen counter trying to look if she looks like she's in distress. And I'm trying to see if she swallowed something, if she's choking on something, and she vomits on the kitchen counter. And normally, if the people here have animals, that's usually the signal where like, oh, okay, I'm better. And it's like, I'm not feeling bad anymore. And they go out and play. But she just laid her head down on the counter and she looked very unhappy. And I was like looking through, get a little graphic. Yeah, I know. Yes. I was looking through, to see if there's anything weird she had swallowed. I couldn't find anything. So I brought her to the bedroom and has her head down and she's breathing in a labored way. And I'm just watching her for 5 minutes and it's not getting any better. So it's like, okay, lockdown's over. And I called the emergency pet place and I drove her over there very quickly. and she was in the ICU for like the next day. They don't know what it was. I went downstairs to see what she might have gotten into or eaten. I can't find anything. There was nothing in her barf that suggested that she'd eat anything.
Good place to look.
What was that?
I said that's a really good place to look. I mean,
yeah, right, exactly. And so I anyway. So they said she looked as if she was neurologically not right because she was hanging her head. She wasn't responding correctly. And finally, toward the evening, they gave her they were giving her fluids, trying to flush out her system. They gave her some nausea medication, and she started eating again, and she's normal. And then the next day, I picked her up, and she looked irritated with me that I had left her there. And she's first in line for treats. She's harassing the other cats. She's playing with string. I mean, she's doing all her old stuff. So everything's fine, but I don't know. And normally it's like, I would assume, well, maybe she ate something, but there was that weird thing the night before where she was looking at something that wasn't there. So do you have any sense of what that could have been?
Well, one of my first questions would have been, was there any kind of new flea medication or anything like that was applied topical that wasn't digested? Because sometimes that can cause neurological responses, like an allergy reaction.
Yeah, nothing.
Maitland.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, please.
I want to say hi first to Kathy, Peggy, Dawn, Caroline, Hedel, Jamie for being back again. Simran, hi everybody. Thank you for being here. Today's topic is specifically related to animals, animal consciousness, animals in the afterlife. And we're calling in Maitland to talk to Brian about his little strange, odd paranormal experience, because Maitland says it is. Maitland says in your basement that you do have other creatures of the like, but it's not another kitty cat. It's not a spirit of a kitty cat that you had. She says that it is... oh my God, this is something I never thought about. She goes, why wouldn't you? Okay, listen to this. I don't know why I wouldn't think about this.
Right.
So when we go into a new house, we always look for like entities, ghosts, right?
Right.
People who lived on the land before, transitioned, or spirits, and we do the clearing of the spirits of people.
Right.
But I don't think I've ever slowed down to do a clearing of the spirit animals.
Oh, right.
Have you ever thought about something like that?
No.
What's wrong with us?
That's okay. Interesting. That's interesting. So it was an animal who lived there before?
She's saying yes. Yes, and was irritated that she was in his space and gave a good kind of psychic attack, which was the growl and the puffy.
I see.
And the getting away. And, oh my God, you're right, Maitland. So I've dealt with spirits and ghosts that can make people physically ill, vomit, diarrhea, headaches, flu-like symptoms.
Oh, interesting.
And that is what that animal was doing to Daisy. Dandelion. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's okay.
Flowers.
That's really okay. So what's interesting is, and it's interesting that you said he, because I moved into this house with my first wife 25 years ago, and there was a cat that was trying to get in, and it was a kind of a plump cat, had a broken tail, mangled ear, and it was kind of plump, and it's like a street cat, and it had a smoker's meow, like meh, kind of like that. And so and he always wanted to get in, and I didn't, and I just, so we never let him in because we had cats of our own, but we would talk to him, and he was always in our yard, and we called him Scrounge because he just looked like this tough alley cat that was just, he was streetwise. And turns out he used to live in the house, and he was a cat that lived next door with the neighbors had adopted him after the old people had to kind of abandon him. So yeah, it's not terrible. So okay. So Lucy, our kitten, used to play with him and fight him through the glass. It was because he's this tough cat, smoking, and the little kitten's trying to get him, but through the sliding glass door. Okay, so time goes on. I found out his name is Blitz. Blitz crosses over, and then Lucy crosses over, and then Lucy, I think, comes back as Emily. So now I have this reincarnated cat, and who should show up but this new cat, looks the same body type, also a guy. His name is, what was his name? I don't remember. And he came in with the new neighbor who moved in at the same house that Scrams lived. And Emily is fighting him through the glass. It was unreal. I have a picture of Emily fighting him through the glass and of Lucy fighting the old cat.
Blitz.
Henry was his name. And so about 2 years ago, that neighbor moved, and Henry was pretty old, so I'm assuming he didn't make the transition. And I do miss him because he, like Blitz, he was always over at my house sitting on the deck. It was unreal. And the fact that you said it was a he, I wonder if that's the same cat. Wow, that is crazy.
Animal spirit.
Right.
So my mind is blown how Maitland's so casual about, why would you never think that
right.
only clear, like-minded, I guess, we always see ourselves in what we're looking for. So human spirit.
Right.
Here she is talking about how we need to give special attention to the animal spirits that are left behind. But Maitland says that she won't go through it again. It's when it's done, it's over.
I see. Well, what's interesting is that where she spotted it, Emily would sit near that area and watch that space, and it looked like she was looking into a drain that's at the bottom of on the floor of the basement. And now that Dandelion came in, she's doing the same thing. Sits in the same spot, looks what I think is the drain at the basement. But I mean, is she looking at the spirit cat? It was just the same spot, but from a different angle. I don't know. That's
Maitland's funny. She calls the spirit not a cat, but just an animal spirit because it's evolved a little bit.
I see.
But was very aggressive to her.
The strange things about, if you looked at Blitz and you looked at Henry, they had the same body type, same fur. I don't think there was same smoker's meow. It's unreal. It was very strange.
I love how the animals around you incarnate to similar appearance.
Yes.
Yes. Like everything. It's pretty wild.
Right.
We have a lot of comments, and they're kind of wondering, are we going to be taking questions today, or what does that look like?
So I think we'll take, one of the topics we're going to talk about is, what if our animals, now that we're home all the time, I'm assuming they're enjoying it, but maybe not. But yeah, let's take questions. When do you want to do that, Jamie? Do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with?
Well, Don's just quickly asking, but wouldn't sage cleanse animal energy that's lingering in the house also? Which I agree with, but Maitland says most of the time when we're making our intent is solely focused on spirit being human spirit. That we don't see animal spirit as being a invasive energy to us,
right? Because
we are more dominant than them. We are more in control. So she says, in our intents, we don't have that kind of focus. So therefore, the sage can cleanse, but it's not about demanding that they're gone.
So would this spirit animal have been like? It wouldn't have been malevolent. It's just territorial, I'm guessing, or no?
Territorial.
Territorial, okay. What a strange place. It's just in the basement. Okay. Maybe that's when he lived here, maybe that's what his thing was. So you want to take more questions, or do you want to talk about what our animals are going through now? What about your animals, Jamie, now that you're home all the time?
Oh, my Aloha, the one I call my nurse, who's always staring at me and checking to make sure I'm doing self-care properly.
Right.
She wants us all to be gone. Like, I think she's hiding in the closet and like whittling like what a on a stick, and she's just gonna come and get us at night.
Right.
So she's like, where is my downtime? She's a cat. She loves her private time.
Right.
She bathes in it. She soaks it up, and now we're all up in her space.
Right. Exactly.
Every room in our house is filled with homeschooling, home office,
right,
dining room, kitchen. It's all gone. So we have found her in some really unique hidden kitty snuggly places.
Right.
Our active cat, Umi, is more, where are you going? Can't I go outside with you? Like, what's happening? Can I take care of that for you? And
Right.
so he's more lively and aggressive. He's like, oh, you're home all day. Let's get down and play. And you're like, dude, I gotta work. He's shutting computers off. He's breaking glasses more than ever. He's carrying stuff off. We had a
Wow.
live stream the other day, and he jumped up behind me and he grabbed this sack of like arts and crafts, and he just walked off with it and found it like in another room, undone and tucked up under a couch or chair. So he's antsy, and I know that they can feel what we're going through. And right now, mass consciousness around the whole globe is
Right.
holding that fear, worry.
Fear. Yeah. There's a lot of fear energy out there. Yeah.
Well, even now we have grief. I mean, we have 25,000 souls on Earth right now, and more
Right.
that have transitioned. Have transitioned in a short amount of time.
Right.
And how are we holding space for that?
Well, so many people on Earth have plans for the next 2 or 3 or 4 months, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? Vacations canceled, weddings, and people can't even hold funerals some places because they're just,
I know, right?
Right.
It's breaking my heart.
Right. Exactly. So that energy our animals are picking up that energy, is what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, our animals are paralleling what we're feeling, and they're helping absorb those emotions so that we can, like, they're community creatures. They're doing it all organically, all naturally. It's not like, damn, you're doing a really hard time handling it. I guess I'll take a little bit on.
Right.
We're naturally these creatures. So when you're processing something, they're going to process it too. So how well are you handling this is how well your animal's going to be handling it.
Right, right, exactly. I did have a question that's submitted by a reader from our site, and I think we talked about this before, but I don't know if it was exactly this way. And so we have this idea, and maybe you can speak to this in a broader term, of people who don't cross over. They might have had a death and they weren't ready to go over, so they linger around, or maybe they're stuck and they can't cross over. Does that happen with our animals and our animal companions?
Oh, Maitland. That's something else I haven't thought of. Today is like the world. Right. Maitland said yes.
They get stuck.
That's right. We have had some readings where the dog, it's mostly the dogs that I've seen that do this, that they're still holding on to their routine with their parent and they don't want to leave. And so when their body transitions, they don't go into the light. They don't leave the house. And they'll stay there for weeks, sometimes a year or so, and manage their pet parent or their human parent.
Right.
And then when they feel like they've done their job, then they'll transition over. So that does fit the bill. Maitland says it happens more than we know.
Interesting.
As we're starting to get more struggle right now.
Oh, I see.
So
right.
The animals that are crossing over right now, she says most likely more of them will linger rather than crossing over to make sure that their family is balanced.
Right. Right. Of course, the woman we interviewed for the book, Kate and King was this big, I'm trying to think of what he's not a pit bull, but something.
Was he a German Shepherd?
No. Was he? No. He's a big muscular, I can't think of what his exact breed was, but so he had all kinds of habits. One of the things that he liked to, when I guess she had an open shower, and he would just come in and bathe with her when she was doing that. He, of course, so she would hear the click of his nails when she would take a shower in the bathroom. She could feel him get up on the bed because he was a heavy dog, and
right.
And when she would take walks, she used to take him on walks, and she could feel like a pull on her left wrist as if there was a leash there, and he was on it. So that's funny what you said about.
But Maitland said that those paranormal experiences can happen once your animal crosses over as well. So it doesn't mean that if you're having those kinds of interactions that they are still lingering.
I see, right. But can an animal get stuck? For example, let's take the animal that either Blitz or Henry, who could have been down in the basement. He's not stuck there, or is he going there because he wants to, or because?
Maitland said he's going there because he wants to.
I see.
His territory, his slice of heaven.
I see. And then can you talk a little bit about animals, or maybe Maitland could say animals that get stuck?
Gonna imitate her. She makes these noises. Well, like it's really like wow, wow. To get stuck, not really. Animals, she said, have a clear conscious of what their purpose is. They're not tied up in their own ego of my belief system and my controlling. It's I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. So they don't really linger in between confusion. Frequent.
Sure.
That's not a common space, she said. So no, it's super rare that animals will get stuck. It's most likely they say, I'm not ready to do this. I haven't finished what I plan to do with my people. So I'm going to stay and then I'll transition afterwards. Or I'm going to go ahead and transition and then come back and just oversee them.
Right. And I know this story, and I don't know if it's from you as a part of our book, doing research. There was a cat, I think it was a cat who got poisoned by a neighbor. The neighbor didn't like the cat and poisoned the cat. And the cat did not know it had crossed over. And so it was continuing to do all the things, and the family would see it, and it was experiencing it still. And I thought you had said at the time that it's possible that the animal just didn't realize it had died. So it wasn't that it was choosing to linger; it just didn't know it could go. So it kept going on. Can you ask Maitland if that's so? It's not really stuck, right? It's just,
well, Maitland said it was a perfect example of kind of being stuck, but it's just because of a lack of knowing.
Right.
It's not that they were stuck because they were confused.
Right.
They didn't know the body had died, and they were just keeping on.
Right. Because we talked about how animals, they kind of know, they might linger on if a family member needs, or like you had an animal who you rescued after he got stuck in a fence. His leg in a fence?
Babu, yes. He climbed the fence and got wedged in between the dog ears of the fence.
Yeah. And so he, I don't want to say he committed suicide, but he clearly thought he was supposed to go, and he didn't want to go on. What do you think? Can you tell the story a little bit? What happened there?
Yes. We had indoor-outdoor cats, and they would come in at night. And one night he didn't come in, and we had my parents over that had the dog. And usually Babu was not afraid of a dog, but he wanted space. He tried to cross over into the neighbor's fence. He was missing for 3 days. We looked everywhere. We had the neighbors out looking, and we just never saw him because it was on the back side of their fence. He was hanging, and he was dehydrated.
Sure.
And finally, on the 3rd day, we heard a faint meow, like on one strange hour in the afternoon. We found him. He had to lose his leg. We rehabbed him. Everything was great. He was home. It was the first day where the vet approved that he could go outside, because that was his mentality. That to keep him inside, my vet said, would almost be inhumane, that he would fall into a depression, and then we would have all these other, and it made sense. Much younger, and we let him out, and it was the 2nd or the 3rd day. He ran completely in front of a car,
so on purpose.
It was like he timed it and waited for it, and then decided to run in front of the car, because he was not the cat to cross the street. He wouldn't.
Right.
And he was very savvy in what was coming at him. He was just a smart kitty. And it was insane.
So what do you think happened there? Do you think that he was supposed to have gone, and then he was just making up for it? He was just crossing over. So it seems like our animals do have that sense of so that in the case of the cat that was poisoned, it was a situation where its crossing over date was in the future, and it just kept going.
Just kept going.
Right. That's which you kind of like to think that everything happens for a reason. It's all planned, but that suggests not, right? Do you have a sense?
Well, and Maitland's joining this little conversation of everything being planned. She says it's like Jello. You make plans in the Jello, and sometimes when it gets big or too heavy, it'll sink or it'll move.
I see.
Or you could decide to avoid it. With the free will aspect, we can navigate around anything that is set, even in stone.
Right, right. So, can you talk a little bit about our contract with animals that we have, like our animal companions? Because I want to set up talking about animals that are in the wild or animals that are on farms, like dairy cows and such. Can you? So, animal comes in, and we talked about soul animals that are really close to people, and you said they have contracts with us. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Just like we have contracts with other spirits or entities, we have contracts with the animals we come across. Anything that holds a life force that's going to play a role in your life, meaning to create an experience that has an impact. You will have an agreement with them before you even designed or came back into this life.
Right.
With animals, and Maitland's joining in, with animals, some of the beautiful contracts or agreements that we make is that we share the burden of life and we share the burdens of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be burden all the time, Maitland, but that's how she worded it.
Right.
But even though they don't speak English, they don't look like us, and they don't behave like us, their emotional language is the same as ours. And that's how we're able to create these great, like, intense relationships and play out some of these agreements that we did so that we can learn who we are and why we are.
And it seems like talking to people as a result of doing this book, it seems like there are animals that come in, and and they're great, but there are also some like special animals where there's this like like people relationships. There's like a bond, and yeah. What would you say? Like soul animals, I guess we can call, like soulmates, but soul animals.
Totally. Yeah, they can be in our soul family group.
Right.
They can be our twin flame.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
They can be our soulmate. Absolutely.
So then let's talk about an animal that might be out in the wild, like let's talk about what would be a good wild, like a fox. Okay, so a fox would they have a contract with, or do they have a life plan, or are they just a fox and they're just being for lifetimes?
Maitland is losing her mind right now. Yes, she says they have a purpose, so they have an agreement, they have a reason of why they're incarnated at this time, and for who they're coming across.
Okay, but it wouldn't necessarily, like, so if we had a soul animal, that contract, one of those contracts or agreements would be with another person, soul that's in a person body, but it wouldn't be necessarily true for our hypothetical fox.
Right. She says your agreements don't have to be with animals that are only domesticated. They can be wildlife as well.
Okay. So let's talk about farm animals, or animals that are raised to be food. That's got to be, I mean, I would assume if that holds true, that those animals know what their fate is. I mean, in a lot of ways, the reason they were created in the first place was to be harvested, right? Yeah. So what's going on? I mean, is that just like a sacrifice life? What's going on there?
She's saying yes, or you can call it a sacrifice life.
Right.
But she also wants to acknowledge all the plants, carrots and potatoes, where the entire plant is harvested as well for food.
Right.
They have a life force as well.
Sure.
So she's wagging her finger. Pretty soon, you're going to know, she goes, this will be the next evolutionary leap, is that we understand that animals have consciousness. Now we're going to start developing a way to understand that plants have a consciousness and plants have communication. So everything that we're talking about right now, she says, with the sacrificial life that you've given, is going to be true with the plant as well. But yes, she says you would know when you come in that you're going to be on the farm, that you're not going to be a pet, that you're going to be, and sometimes, mistreated.
Right.
Or she says you end up a cow in India and you're going to be highly honored
Right.
and treated well. And she says there's a balance to everything, and it's very beautiful to have many options in your incarnations to experience the complete rainbow of emotions when you're on Earth.
I had a friend many years ago who was an animal communicator and connected in, I don't remember, I think it was a cow. And basically the way the cow, I mean, it was going to be food. And the way the cow, the mission that cow had was, I'm doing this, that I'm sacrificing myself. And it was very in line with that, that purpose. You know, it was, to that animal, that was a sacred thing. I'm coming here to feed others, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, and it was completely cool with that. So is what Maitland is saying, though, that so if we become a vegetarian because we don't want to destroy a life force by eating an animal, is it so now I can't have, you know, a baked potato either, and without
She's jumping up and down. Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying. This whole nonsense of not being able to eat something that has eyes and a mouth is ridiculous, because your plants have the same emotional qualities and higher consciousness and intelligence. It's just that you're not evolved enough to see it. Ooh, jab.
Wow. But so then will there be like groups for the protection of, you know, plants and vegetables?
She says people are going to talk about it, but the bottom line is we're going to come to the fact that those plants and those animals, if they're respected and they're giving their life selflessly, that there's going to be a balance in the energy exchange.
Right.
It's this over manufacturing and this mistreating of a life that is so unbearable. She said it's very hard to look at.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And so along these lines, and this is weird. This is a weird. I know, I have a feeling of knowing Maitland a little bit and knowing what she's going to say. But okay, let's say there was an animal and it's coming in different lifetimes. It's coming in. It's a fox and a lion, and then it's a cow. Maybe it's a dairy cow, and then it's a hog that's going to be sacrificed. Okay, so now it comes in a lifetime. Now it's a dog, and now let's say it over many lifetimes, this dog creates a relationship with a specific human that also reincarnates. So they're reincarnated together the years. With that animal, then is it not then put back into the cow animal path? You know, would it, or is it now on a different track? You know, does that make sense?
Maitland has hands on hip. She goes, Brian,
that's what I thought.
We're gonna have a conversation. She said, animal incarnation is not stuck to animal incarnation.
Right, sure.
And evolving is not about stupidity into intelligence. Evolving is just through experience, and it could be on many different levels of the selflessness of giving your life so that you are food for others, even to the aggressiveness, and attacking of, she picked hyenas for some reason, to the lovingness of a dog. She said the order means nothing.
I see.
Because time is not linear.
That's what
the experience means everything.
Right.
And the person can incarnate as the cow, that incarnates as a worm, that incarnates as another person, to a cat, to a dog. She says the types of life on Earth are not more valued than the next, but the type of experiences that it can provide is.
Right. I'm trying to remember this story. So years and years ago, maybe 20 years ago, when I was learning to have an out-of-body experience, I was part of this forum of people who were trying to learn this skill. And there was one guy who was pretty good at it, and he would meditate and he could pick up voices of the disembodied. And he was picking up he was just writing the transcript, but it seemed to be the voice of a dog that was really interested. He loved music, and he was really interested in being a human, and he really wanted to, he was no longer alive, but he wanted to come back as a human. He was really excited about that experience and participating in music, stuff like that. So, but that was the first time I really, because I was more of the track, and when I was first learning about reincarnation, I was reading a lot of transcripts about people who had regressed into past life, and they were always being regressed into as a as a human. So they go back 3 lifetimes. They weren't describing being in front of a bowl and kibble dropping into it. They were always talking about a human lifetime. So the idea of transmigration, that we would go from a human to an animal or vice versa, I didn't think that was part of it.
Again, Maitland says, it's because you're only looking at that what you know to look at.
Right.
But she says in conversations like this, we can break that, and you can acknowledge that it's not done on purpose. It's just by default that you start to acknowledge that your existence as a human is treasured more because it's your experience.
Right.
So if you are doing a regression work on someone and that is their belief system, they're going to consciously jump back into the lives of humans because that's
Right.
the role they're playing out. But she said, if we didn't have that layer or taught that this is better, when you do a past life regression, you're going to hear about being a butterfly and about dying as a baby elephant.
Sure.
You can hear about all these other experiences because it's the life that you're looking for. She said, it's of no fault, so that when you are talking to the dog or the dog is communicating, you know, you're kind of leading the story because you're revered as somebody who is incarnated as a human, more valued or stronger or top on the food chain.
Sure.
So that's a whole, oh, we got to strive to be there. But
Right.
unfortunately, that's not the truth.
Right. Well, I guess if you're in general, if someone is regressing to a past life, what does she say?
She's cutting me up so hard. She's like, spiritually, I'm just
if you but I guess if you're being regressed for the purpose of finding of locating a fear,
right.
You know, what? So so for example, if it's a fear of water, you're not going to go back in time to a fish because or if you're afraid of heights, you're not going to go back to the time when you were a bird and you were soaring around because you don't have those fears as that animal, right? It's going to go back as a human.
As a human, because you're the human trying to figure out a fear. So that's like the only lens that we have. It makes sense.
Right, it does.
I just don't slow enough down. I don't slow down enough, obviously, even to speak. I don't slow down enough to really look at it that way.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
It's really interesting. We've had some really interesting topics.
Right. So is there anything else Maitland can say about because I taught, yeah, there you go. So what happened just now is Jamie, I don't think you can see it right now. Jamie has wind chimes on the top of her bookshelf, and you're in a room. Yeah, they're there. And you're in a room. There's not an open window. There's no wind going through there.
No, I don't. Windows and stuff don't open here.
And occasionally during these sessions, they will just chime for whatever reason.
They'll just go off.
Right.
So we'll keep it there so you can see
if it happens. Can Maitland talk any more a little bit about, because I tend to think of that track of, okay, you're a wild animal, you're a farm animal, and you're a pet or an animal companion, and I don't necessarily think that one is better than the other, but I more have a sense of that they're separate tracks. But it sounds like that's not necessarily the case, or
yes, one is not better than the other. The thing that's most revered or your deepest connection to is the experience that you have by being that certain kind of animal. And because humans are animals too, don't forget.
Right, of course. Yes, absolutely. So in this case, so it wouldn't be like a cow is just going to keep reincarnating to be, steaks, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. It's like, give me a break here.
Yeah, you get a break.
I want to be a wild cow.
But I had a reading once with this woman, and she was asking, how many times have I incarnated? And it was just like a number in the hundreds. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's happening? And then her guides were like, she loves being a monarch butterfly.
Oh.
She's done it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And she's had like hundreds of experiences being a monarch butterfly. And she was just like, what? She's like, monarch butterfly. She goes, that's my symbol. She's like, I got a tattoo of it. I've got things of it. She's like, that's
wow.
Like, and I was like, woo, they gave me goosebumps.
Right.
God, man.
That's great. That's crazy. So, so yeah, and they like last 5 minutes, right? So, I mean, their lifespan is pretty short, right? I don't think
like a day or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to research it.
Right, but of course they're spending a lot more time being the caterpillar before the butterfly, right? So I guess it's being transforming again and again, even during life.
Yes.
So we're running out of time. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah. Do you mind scrolling through and finding a few that
any questions?
It looked good in the glasses.
Oh, well, it's someone asked about eating fruits. Is it the same? I'm assuming it would be like a fruit isn't more highly evolved than an ear of corn. I like that question. That's a good question.
Maitland said, "This is terrible. I don't want to say it."
Okay.
Tell it to me in a different way. The way she was doing like a metaphor, it was awful. Like eating a baby. It's the baby. It's the fruit. It's the baby of the plant. See, I can't even. No, we're skipping that, but we're going to talk about it this way. No, it's the life force of the plant, but it's not killing the plant to do it. So it is a true gift. She thinks that's why fruit is so sweet and so delicious and colorful, and is very attractive, and it feeds us a lot of the nutrition that we actually need to survive.
But at the same time, they are screaming in pain when when we pull an apple off the tree, and
so. She says it's not in pain, but they do feel the energetic disconnect.
I see.
But it is the plant or the tree's goal to separate from the fruit at a certain point. So having it picked early is aggressive to them, but having it ripen and then being picked while it's ripe is something that they feel is quite successful, and it brings them a lot of joy to be able to release the fruit.
Well, so Jamie on the chat has actually a great question. She says, "So can we come back as a plant?" I mean,
yes.
Wow.
Yes, a tree, a plant, a weed. Yes, your consciousness can experience that.
Yeah, I know. When I was learning to have an out-of-body experiences, I started just a result of doing the meditation. I started to see auras when I looked for them, and once I was able to see them, I was looking at them all the time, every chance I got. I went back to my parents' house, and they have like two 150-year-old black walnut trees. It's just beautiful.
Whoa.
And that was the first time I saw multiple layers on anything living. So I could look at me or look at people. I could kind of see layer, like one layer, maybe a different color on the head than the body. Sometimes there would be a little tiny layer at the very closest to the body, but it was very minimal. But when I saw this tree, it was just layer of blue and purple and gold. It was just amazing.
That is stunning.
So I thought about this tree that's been around for a long time, and that it must have this amazing consciousness. I mean, literally, it was around when President Lincoln was assassinated. It was alive. It shook. It's in Sacramento, so it would have shaken at during the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. It would have so obviously you've got this this ent, if we're thinking about Lord of the Rings, that's in the backyard, but you think of a blade of grass, or I'm gonna have to push back a little bit. I get that. I mean, we're thinking about the force and everything being connected and being the same energy and from the same source, but I can't imagine we're going to be, us personally, a blade of grass or a weed. Is that seems, does Maitland have anything to say? Maybe an apple. Okay, I'll take an apple, but
She said a blade of grass, no, because that's just a leaf on something that's much grander.
I see. Okay.
That's like saying you're a leaf on the tree. She's like, no, your energy would be the tree, and your energy would go through the roots that then connect to the other seedlings that you've dropped that create other trees, where you're interconnected.
Interesting.
And so it expands that way, and your essence experiences community. And she says it all boils down to the whole on being a part of the whole, but a whole in and of itself.
Yeah, it reminds me of that movie Avatar, where everything living was just all connected. Yeah, I know.
So much.
He's coming out with like 3 or 4 more of the movies, and they are perpetually 3 or 4 years out. And then you look to see, and it's like, oh no, it's another 3 or 4 years out, but they're coming.
I can't wait.
Well, okay, I think we're out of time. We didn't get as many questions in, but we'll do that next time.
I would love that. We could even go back and take some of the questions that are in the thread.
Absolutely.
Really
Yes.
and kind of copy and paste them on a piece. And,
that's a great idea. I'll do that. I'll take a look at that. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for another great episode. I appreciate your coming back again. Please go to animalsandlight.com and send in your stories, and go to Jamie's Facebook page. Please like it, follow it. The more we get, the faster the book's going to come out. So please
share it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, get all your friends to like it. The more likes and shares we get, like I said, the faster Animals in Light, the book, will come out. We've got some great stories we want to share with you in a more in-depth way that we can do here. So I think you'll definitely enjoy it.
And again, all the episodes are living up over on YouTube, so you can start from 1 and go all the way to 8.
And you can also, and also on our website, animalsandlight.com. Thanks, guys.
You guys are wonderful. Brian, thank you so much for the time today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to see you.
And be safe out there, guys. Stay home.
Please stay put. Sit,
yes.
dog. Sit, boo-boo.
Yes, exactly. Be for a little while.
Yeah. Bye, Luminaires. Take care. Bye, Brian.
Bye.